So yes, we are down to looking at the summary completion question type that does not come with a box of suggested words. So if you'd watched the previous video on this playlist, we discussed in that video the question type, the IELTS reading summary completion question type that comes with box of suggested words. And of course, you saw how that spanned out. You saw how I was able to deal with that question, applying logic and logical coherence, grammar, and of course using keywords to scan my text for answers. But this time around, we do not have a box of suggested words. So what do we then do? We simply resort to using keywords from each of the sentences constituting the summary. Get those keywords and go into the text in search of where those keywords are either mentioned verbatim, where they are mentioned the same way as you have them on the question, or where they are rephrased to get your answers. And you will see how that works in the practice question I'm going to walk you through right now. So hang in there. If you're new here, by the way, you want to subscribe as quickly as you can so that you get notified when you have other informative and helpful videos such as this pops up, right? So for this question type we have now, you see, this is also a summary question type, summary completion question type. How do I know that? Because it comes this way: complete the summary below. So you see, that is the word that lets you know you're dealing with this question type, right? You're using no more than 2 words. Whatever word you're lifting from the text, you want to ensure that the number of words you're lifting from the text, you morph them into a way that they make grammatical and logical sense, and they must be within the bounds of 1 to 2 words, not more than 2 words, right? So you want to note that point. You know, in the previous video, you learned that the words are already given to us in a box, so we don't have any choice. We didn't have choice. We had to pick up those words from the box and fill up our blanks with them. But this time around, you have to ensure that whatever word you're picking or phrase you're picking, you limit it, right? So yes, so we have Sabokta argues that big business and users of helium need to help look after helium stocks because blank. So we need this word. Somebody's name can certainly not be rephrased, right? So we're going to say just that way. And we have big businesses and users of helium need to help look after helium because of what? Because dash will not be encouraged. So I think I need a noun or a noun phrase, because something. So if you can think of that word as something that has a name, a special name, then it has to be a noun. Will not be encouraged. So let's go into the text. And because this is the 36 to 40th question, I know my answer to come from the bottom of the text. So that is where I start scanning from, right? So let's dive right into the text. This is the text we had used before to deal with a different question type, by the way. That is why you have these highlights on it. So we're looking for Sabokta. So we can see that from the bottom of the, yes, good. So we've seen something. We've seen something pointing to our keyword. So we have, as Sabokta notes, the government had the good vision to store helium. And the question now is, will the corporations have the vision to capture it when they extract natural gas and consumers the wisdom to recycle? This takes long-term vision because present market forces are not sufficient to compel prudent practice. I have seen something. If you need to remember the keywords I am looking for, by the way, it's important for me to mark this so that we easily locate it when we're coming back to the text, right? I have seen something already. It could be prudent. That is seeming like the only special kind of noun phrase we have in that text, in this text, right? So let's see what brought us here. We were looking for this. Sabokta argues that big business and users of helium need to help look after helium stocks because dash will not be encouraged through buying and selling. What will not? So they have to look after keeping the stocks because something will not be encouraged through buying and selling, right? So going back to the text. So we have this takes long-term vision because present market forces are not sufficient to compel prudent. So prudent practice will not be encouraged. So the word that rephrase the word encourage is compel, right? So we have to compel prudent practice. So we've seen our phrase prudent practice. So it means you go right there and plug in that phrase prudent practice will not be encouraged. Okay. So prudent practice. There we go. So you see, it also makes logical sense. The next one, we have Richardson believed that the dash needs to be withdrawn. Something. I think we also need a noun here, a special kind of noun. And you know why I can tell that the dash needs to be withdrawn? As the US provides most of the words helium. So I'm thinking anything that points to conservation or monopoly. Yes, since the US provides helium already, but then we can't be so sure. So we have an important keyword, Richardson. Something needs to be withdrawn as the US provides most of the words helium already, right? So we dive right into the text. Something has to be withdrawn as the US already provides much of helium. So for Nobel Prize laureate Robert Richardson, the US government must be prevailed upon to repeal its privatization policy. So we've seen the word withdrawn, rephrase, to repeal, to take back something, right? That is already law. To repeal its privatization policy as the country supplies over 80%. So we see as the US supplies much of the words helium, of global helium world, rephrase. So you see our answer has to be here. So privatization policy obviously is what has to be withdrawn. See, repeal is privatization policy is the same way as saying withdraw privatization policy. So you see, so you want to go plug in that word privatization policy just the way you have it in the text, right? So we have it right here. I don't know why all these are coming with. Okay, so we have, yeah. Having to do this can be a little taxing. So yeah, we're there now. I need to plug it in so that you see how it makes coherent sense when you read with the words before and after. So you see, Richardson believed that the privatization policy needs to be withdrawn. So you see, perfect sense. Next question. He argues that higher cost would mean people have dash to use the resource many times over. So I'm thinking people have liberty or people have access to use the resource. Another noun. People have access, liberty. Think about it. I mean, it makes logical sense. Higher costs would mean people have dash to use the resource many times over. Oh, I'm even thinking limited access, because higher cost would mean not having easy access, right? So let's pick up our keywords and go hunt for them in the text, continuing from where we left off. Remember, right? Higher costs. So the keyword higher costs would mean people have dash resource to use many times over. So we go right into the text and continue reading from where we left off the previous time. So we have mostly from National Helium Reserve. For Richardson, you see, they've rephrased him. They've rephrased that they're repeating the name of the person. A 20 to 50-fold increase in price would provide incentives to recycle. Incentives to recycle. I've seen something that points to liberty that I predicted. Incentives. For Richardson, a 20 to 50% fold increase in prices, 20 to 50-fold increase in prices, that points to higher cost, would provide incentive to recycle. So recycling is the rephrase of using something many times over, because of course recycling is reproducing it, which then implies using it again and again. So we have the word we need, incentive. So we go in to the question portion of this copy and plug in the word incentive. Right, so we just put that word right in. Incentive. Please always make sure of your spellings. Right now, people should need a dash to access helium that we still have. People should need a dash to access helium that we still have. So they need a license. Right, I'm thinking of license. They need a permission. So yes, I think I had a prediction. See, I am making my prediction from just logical coherence, right? Understanding the word before and after, the phrase before and after, and making just logical prediction from the meaning of that, or the words I already have. So what are our keywords this time? Our keywords are people, very important, should need something to access helium, right? So right into the text, people should need something. So a number of steps need to be taken in order to avert a costly predicament in the coming decades. Firstly, all of these supplies of helium ought to be conserved and released only by permits. That's our word, permits. Only by permits, with medical users receiving precedence over other commercial or recreational demands. So people need permits. Mostly all of these supplies of helium ought to be conserved and released only by permit. By saying it has to be released, of course, they've already implied people, right? Permit. So we use the exact word there. It is safer to use the exact word. Try not to rephrase what you have, but your rephraser may not be very accurate. So you use the word permit as given to you already in the text. So I want to believe that was helpful and as clear as can be, right? But then you have to take practice. You have to source for materials on the internet, look for more recent questions, walk through these questions, applying these tricks you're learning on this playlist, and hopefully they work best for you. If you're new here, again, remember to subscribe, and if you have any questions for me, or if you find the video helpful at all, you want to do that in the comment section, right? And remember to like. Yes, remember to like this video, right? And yes, when you do all of these things, you're going to be notified when I drop in another helpful, believably helpful video on probably other sections of the test. We could be discussing, we could be moving into the listening or the speaking section in a subsequent video, considering that we've covered much of the tricky question types you could possibly have on the reading. So until we meet again in another video, I wish you the very best on your test.